Jai Jagannath. Here we are, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. We are starting from verse 45. Actually, we had read a couple of more verses last time, but we can go back. Krishna was explaining to Arjuna about the duties of the human beings in the Varna and Dharma, and saying that it is very important to perform one's duties according to one's guna and karma in the best possible way, in the regulated way, according to the instructions of the Shastra. So we read the verse 45. By engaging in the duties pertaining to his specific nature, a human being gradually attains perfection. Now listen how one can attain perfection through engagement in his specific duties. Last time we had pinpointed the fact that the duties prescribed for the different varnas are progressive duties, in the sense that they are not only suitable for the potential that the individual person has, but they are also programmed, designed to help the individual evolve and progress. So, for example, the Shudra learns to assist others, serve others, to give service to others by doing manual labor, physical labor. Then this also includes artists, craftspeople, messengers and like that. So the artisans and especially the craftspeople, they still work with their hands, but they can teach other people, accept apprentices, So, like for example, someone who makes pots can take an apprentice and teach the apprentice how to make pots in another clay objects. So by doing that, the Shudra is becoming more responsible, not just for his own work, but also for the work of others. And if he is an independent craftsperson, he can, become organized to get the source materials and if necessary, pay for them. And he's also selling the products. So, if he wants to be successful, he has to listen to what the people want and need, what people prefer, so that he can sell his products, his crafts in a better way. So this gradually helps the Shudra to develop a Vaishya mentality. So this is why this verse is saying that the human being gradually attains perfection. So it's not a perfection that is not evolving. Perfection means evolution. Gradually attains means progress. So when we say, we believe that each person should stay in that position where he was born, this is not what the Vedic society says. Because the Vedic system and Bhagavad Gita especially clearly say that each human being should progress, should evolve. should make an effort. So when a Shudra has become a Vaishya, he is accepted as a Vaishya, by the Brahmanas, by the king, So when a Vaishya develops, and becomes more responsible in his work, he gradually becomes a Kshatriya. And because when he is rich enough, when he is producing sufficient wealth, he's also distributing the wealth to the people. So he's taking care of society in general, and this is the job of the Kshatriya. So the Vaishya needs to gradually become a Kshatriya. And a Kshatriya also needs to better understand people, understand Dharma, because he has to protect society, to protect the culture, protect the Dharma, protect the Brahmanas, and so on. So, gradually he becomes a Brahmana when he studies the Shastras, when he understands Dharma and Vidya, and he becomes renounced. He's not attached to self-gratification. He is perfectly realized. So when he attains a level of Brahman realization, he becomes automatically a Brahmana. So, of course, the guna and karma change gradually. They don't change from one day to the other, but they change. Guna and karma are the only tattva, the only things that actually change in the world, because everything else is not changing. So we have to make an effort to situate ourselves on a guna platform that is progressively going to sattva. And in the same way, our karma needs to become more and more sattvic, so that we can become more perfect as human beings. But this is done by engagement in the service that is suitable to our present guna and karma, but according to the rules that are designed to support our development. So, the Samanya Dharma that is taught to everyone in the Vedic society is generally required to evolve, to become better human beings, and it is the same body of teachings that Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita about any human being, about any yogi. Yoga doesn't make any difference between varnas. So yoga and bhakti are connected to the Sanatana Dharma, are the Sanatana Dharma for each human being, while the Varna Dharma is called Swadharma, but is temporary. The Sanatana Dharma is eternal. So the perfection that the Gita Krishna is talking about is the perfection of Sanatana Dharma, the perfection for all human beings. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. If there are any questions, you please stop me.
Sure.
Okay. So, in the next verse, it says, verse 46, by properly performing one's duties, one is worshipping the Supreme, from all which beings and situations are created and engaged, and that pervades all this universe. This is how a human being can attain perfection. So Krishna continues to explain that if we perform our proper duty according to our position, our qualities, our guna, karma, our capacities, and by following the specific rules of the varnas, we are serving the human society, and we are serving the universal community as well. We know that human society represents the material body of Vishnu. We remember the Purusha Shukta from the Rig Veda that is describing human society as the body of the Purusha. The Purusha means the Virat Rupa, the Virat Purusha. Okay, so by serving the body of God, we attain perfection. Now, what is properly performing one's duties? Krishna has already explained that in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly, saying that one should perform one's duty without being attached to the result of the actions, without being attached to victory or defeat, gain or loss, honor or lack of honors. But that applies to all human beings, not just to the brahmanas or kshatriyas or anyone. To all human beings should apply these teachings, these protocols in performing one's duty. Krishna has already explained very clearly to Arjuna that he should not abandon his duty, but he should perform his duty to the best of his abilities, but by observing the dharmic rules, the dharmic principles. So, if, let's say, someone is born in a family of butchers, who make a living by killing animals and cutting the pieces of the animals and selling them, what is the proper duty? The proper duty is to go towards sattva, because that's not dharma. The butcher is not following any dharma. In fact, is following adharma. There is no such thing as a criminal swadharma. A criminal is not engaged in any varna. There is no criminal varna. There are brahmanas, vaishyas, brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, shudra. There is no criminal varna. If one wants to be a shudra, because he doesn't want responsibilities, he doesn't want to complicate his life, just wants a salary and a place to stay, enjoy his family, enjoying good food, having a lot of holidays and everything. Okay, he can be a shudra, no problem. But if someone is a criminal, wants to be a criminal, that's not a varna, that's outside the varna system. Krishna is not speaking here of criminal duties. The criminal could think that it is his duty because that's what he has been taught, that he has to maintain his family by working as a criminal. But that's not the actual duty. I don't know, is that clear?
Yes.
Any question?
We have some examples of devotees in butcher family. There was one devotee, Sadan Kasai. I've heard story that he was not consuming that, but since he was born in that family, he was doing that. So
I am not sure that the stories are genuine, but if they are, we can consider that situation as an emergency dharma, apat dharma. Because if you have no other choice, then your dharma is to care for your family. Even if you have to do some adharmic job. But that is because of the emergency, because you have no other choice. In states of emergencies, even the greatest brahmanas and rishis were eating dogs and even cows. I think Vishwamitra was one. Because in the emergency, the first dharma is to survive. You need to survive and take care of your dependents. This is the first dharma. You have more obligations towards your family than towards animals, for example. But that doesn't mean you can call it your actual dharma because you were born there. One thing is, like the so-called, lower caste, like, oil maker or weaver or potter or things like that we have lots of examples of devotees, especially in the Varkari tradition, especially in the Bhakti tradition we find a lot of examples. But those activities were not against the Dharma. I don't think there has ever been even one butcher who was a real devotee, a real, a realized person. It's impossible. Unless he had no other choice. But that, again, that's difficult. Because no other choice, why? You can, move and do something else. You can go to some other place, and even if you are not, allowed to take up, professions of a different varna, you can still be a Shudra. You can still do activities that are not against the Dharma. You can, for example, a street cleaner, rag picker, or anything. Because he is not clean, doesn't have clean habits. That's he is called an untouchable, avarni. He is not in a Shudra class because the Shudra is supposed to follow the basic principles of cleanliness. The Shudra lives in the house of his employers. If he doesn't follow cleanliness, he's going to, become a health hazard for the whole family. So the Shudra is a cleaner, but cleaner in a family. So he likes, he cleans the house and then he takes a bath. It's not that he never takes a bath. But some people in the Kali Yuga, in subsequent periods, started to be, restricted from Shudra activities, so they had to become, how you call them, dongi?
Yeah.
So, like sewer cleaners. And sewer cleaners, how much can you wash? If all your life is about cleaning, very dirty and unhygienic stuff. But that still, you can be a bhakta even if you are a donkey, because it's all in your mind. You're not harming anyone. You can still be a fully realized soul. You can get moksha. If you actually realize the unity of all beings, and you have this consciousness of serving the Supreme through serving society and universal community. If you are compassionate and pure, at least in the mind, if not in the body, at least in the mind, if you're humble, you're tolerant, you're gentle to all beings, you're detached from material identification and attachments, you can become a pure devotee. You can attain moksha. That's not a problem. But a butcher is a different thing. Nobody needs to eat meat. If you kill innocent animals to make a profit, this is adharmic. This is pap. This is sinful. Not because Krishna says don't eat animals, but because you are causing unnecessary suffering to innocent beings, and you're getting some profit out of that. And you choose it, you continue to choose it, because if it is not an emergency situation, you keep choosing to do those activities. I cannot understand. I cannot imagine a butcher. In fact, I think I don't know where I read it. I think it's a Bhagavata Purana. It's a Bhagavata Purana. At some point, Sukadeva says very clearly, only a butcher cannot understand God. Let me check if I find the specific quote, but I remember it quite well. Also, you go in South India, Tiruvalluvar, if I'm not mistaken. That's the ahimsa towards the innocent beings is the biggest problem to understand God. Okay, let's see. So we have Bible, even in the Bible, come on. Let's see, Hinduism. Okay. We'll find out.
Okay.
I'll give. Spiritually minded, no, this is not prohibited. Veganism, Veda, no. Veganism is a different thing. Anyway, I remember Bhagavata Purana saying that, because it's not just a dirty job. It kills compassion, and it kills kindness. It kills the feelings, in the heart. And what is bhakti if not feelings of love towards God and all the creatures? So, if you want to stop a fire, you cannot just, keep pouring, fuel on the fire. It's not going to work. If you want to see, you cannot keep, a bandage over your eyes, and if the bandage just make sure the bandage doesn't fall down. How can you see? It's not possible. It's not a commandment. It's not social discrimination. It's an activity. It's a dharmic, criminal activity that is, the biggest obstacle to God realization. The Gita is saying, Yeshan Tvanta Gatam Papam Punyanam, Karmanam. One can attain realization, one can attain God only when all the papa is over. And people do auspicious things. Even if you are a donkey, you're just, cleaning, stool excrements from the streets. You're still a dharmic person. You're not harming anyone. You're not causing suffering to anyone. You see the difference. Even, let's say, even the tanneries. Tanneries are a byproduct of animals, but it doesn't necessarily entail killing the animals. In the Vedic time, the Chandalas who were doing this ladder work, usually they got the dead animals without killing the animals. So they were just collecting the dead bodies. Ladder is still good. Anyway, you have to treat it, you have to clean it, and everything. But the butcher is actually killing the animal. Nowadays you have butchers who don't kill the animals, okay, but they sell the meat of animals that have been killing specifically because due to the legislation, no butcher can sell the meat of animals who have died on their own. Who is going to buy the meat? I don't know. Is that clear?
Yes.
I believe that in the Hindu tradition there have been a lot of attempts to help people overcome birth prejudice, social prejudice, and material identification. So maybe some stories about butcher devotees have come out. Also, for example, I I heard a totally weird story about a devotee butcher who's using the Shalagram Shila as ways to, on his scales to sell the meat. Like, what? And he's presented as a great devotee because he always remembered the Shalagram Shila. Nah, I think that's what is called Lokika Shraddha, popular belief. That is not really, verified. We can accept it in the context, but we cannot use it as a Shastra Praman, as evidence to support the fact that, one can be a butcher and be a devotee. I don't think so. But anyway, so, in any case, Krishna in Gita is recommending that we try to move towards sattva, and we serve all living beings. How many times Krishna is repeating that. How does that work with the butcher's activities? It's not happening. But there are duties, swadharma, specifically described in the Shastra, that are meant to engage all beings, especially human beings, into the service to the Supreme. And the Supreme is from which all beings are created and engaged, and that pervades all this universe. So the Viratrupa is the physical, the material body of God, and by serving the universal community, we are directly serving God. So we attain perfection. Okay, I think it's very clear. So probably we can move to verse 47, which is very tricky. It is better to engage in one specific duty, even imperfectly, than follow the duties of others in a perfect way. One's duties are prescribed according to one's specific nature, and engaging in them is the right thing to do. Now, we can understand this verse better if we remember these two very important points. That number one, as we saw before, the duties are indicated specifically to support our evolution. So our duties should never degrade us, but help us to progress gradually towards perfection. And number two is that our duty is determined by our actual guna and karma, not by jati, not by birth, not by prejudice, body identification. If we remember these 2 points, then everything becomes clear. Like, let's say a Vaishya. A Vaishya, what are the guna and karma of the Vaishya? Krishna has explained that the Vaishya, the guna and karma, the tendencies and activities, the training, is to protect the cows, to produce food through agriculture, and to do commerce, to create, expand the wealth. So if we are good in that, if we have the guna and the karma to do that, then naturally, if we engage in these duties with the consciousness of serving the human society and the universal community, that is much better than trying to be a brahmana. For example, if you are good in cultivating the earth, the land, taking care of the cows and producing wealth, if you try to be a brahmana, you don't have sufficient understanding of the Shastra. What can you teach to people? How can you understand the actual, guna and karma of other people, the actual degree of evolution of other people? You don't understand the Brahman. So if you try to be a brahmana, you will be a greedy brahmana, and you will degrade yourself because you try to make money out of the brahmana position. How you do that? By cheating people, by exploiting people, by telling people that you will do some puja, yagya, something for them, but they have to pay. This is because you don't have the guna and karma of brahmana. So, trying to be a brahmana, if you don't have the guna and karma of a brahmana, will actually create problems to yourself and to society at large. Is that clear?
Yes.
Good. Then we see the next verse of Son of Kunti. Tell.
No, nothing.
Okay. Next, 48. O son of Kunti, one should not abandon the duties pertaining to one's own congenial nature, even if they seem to be imperfect, because all activities are bound to have some defects, just like fire is covered by smoke. A Vaishya that sees a Brahmana, and gets the idea that the Brahmana is getting all these donations, all this money without doing anything. Okay? So he may think, oh yeah, well, being a Brahmana is good because, ask for donations and then you get the money and then you can do things with those money. You can, I don't know, put up a Patanjali, business, call it Patanjali, and automatically you can sell the washing powder as yoga, so that's the idea. So, then also if I do a Brahmana, people will, it's a perfect job because people will listen to me and, they will believe me and whatever I say, they will do. That will make my business much better because, hey, I am the guru, So, person in that position doesn't understand that the work of a Brahmana, the job of the Brahmana also has the down part, it has a difficult and defects. The defect is that the Brahmana must be renounced. He cannot keep any money. He cannot keep any wealth, any property. A little bit like a sannyasi, the Brahmana, the 6 activities of the Brahmana is accepting donation and distributing charity, and studying and teaching, and performing, engaging in religious duties and helping others to perform religious duties. These are the 6 activities of the Brahmana. The Brahmana is asking for donations, but is not keeping anything more than the strict requirements, necessities of life. Brahmana is never going around with 5 kgs of gold, gold chains and gold everything. Doesn't have a big bank account, a big vehicles. A Brahmana has to, walk around with the sandals. Brahmana cannot be a politician, cannot be a king, cannot have any type of material power over people, because then he will become a bad kshatriya. It's not a Brahmana anymore. A Brahmana should treat everyone, with compassion. It's not the Brahmana's job to fight. That's why Drona was not doing, was not behaving like a Brahmana. Nothing that Krishna told him at some point during the battle of Kurukshetra. Say, why are you fighting? You think you're doing his duty as a Brahmana like that? Fighting and to support Duryodhana's adharmic rule. What kind of Brahmana are you? So he's called a Brahmana, the Acharya, because he was a teacher. But he was not really engaging the Brahmana Swadharma. Because Kali Yuga was already advancing. So, one should not abandon his duty, the duties pertaining to one's own congenial nature, swabhava, sahajam, that we carry from birth. That is the nature but it's not the nature of the birth family. Because someone can be born in a family but have a different nature from the nature of the other people of the family, because the person is not created just by the biological DNA of the parents. Otherwise, in a family of stupid people, there can never appear anybody intelligent. So you can never get a genius from mediocre parents, and on the other side, you can never get a bad child, who has a bad character, bad nature, from parents that are good in nature. So, when we say sahajam, when Krishna says sahajam, born at the same time, it's the karma that it is coming from previous lifetimes. Ideally, one should be born in a family that is congenial to his own karma, but it's not always happening. It's not, it's not automatic. Let's see, for example, we have, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyashipu, all these great asuras were born from great rishis. So they should have been born as great rishis, but they were not. So, this is a situation. Of course, the natural tendency would be for a soul to take birth in a congenial family so that it can start again. Shrimatam, Suchinam Shrimatam Gehe. Like Krishna says, in the house of pure people, wealthy and pure people, good people. But it's not necessarily like that. Like we see Satyakama Jabala, what kind of, origin, where was he born? He was born from a prostitute who had an occasional, physical encounter. She didn't even know who the father was. Satyakama Jabala was a great rishi. He had the guna and karma of a great rishi because he loved truth. He wanted to learn. He wanted to progress. This is the characteristic of the Brahmana. And more so, a Brahmana can become a rishi very easily. So that's why Gautama Rishi recognized Satyakama as a Brahmana. Even if he was born in a situation that had nothing to do with any varna, at the most he could be called the Shudra, but maybe not even that. Because no ritual was done, nothing was done. A Shudra sometimes can also, have children, without any plan, any planning. But that's the idea. So, what is one's congenital nature? Astrologers can help, but then up to a point, because we can change our nature by applying an effort in choosing the gunas and choosing karma. So if we are born with a particular guna and karma, if we don't abandon our higher duties, we can continue to progress. But if we abandon our higher duties because we are tired, we are depressed, we faint, or whatever, so we choose some easier duty, the duty of someone who's less qualified, then we are going to have problems, because how can we progress? We are going to remain depressed. Let's say someone has the guna and karma, starts with the guna and karma of a brahmana. And then he finds out, hey, difficult, I cannot, I need to feel a little more secure, a little safer. Like Drona, Drona was, not happy that he didn't have sufficient money to feed his son, Ashwatthama. So he became a guru for hire, a teacher for hire. So okay, usually the brahmana doesn't get paid, because otherwise he becomes a dog. But he enjoyed the material facilities of being the martial arts teacher of the royal family, so he got sufficient money. He got, all the material facilities. And then he degraded himself to the point that all his life was ruined. His son was, didn't learn anything regarding dharma. Ashwatthama was a very adharmic person. And then Drona, in the meantime, he developed this very adharmic attachment, materialistic attachment to Duryodhana. And that was also very detrimental to his brahmana position, because as a brahmana he should have, he should have stayed, supporting, he should continue, chosen to support dharma. He didn't. So what kind of brahmana he was? You understand?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. That's next. 49. One attains the supreme perfection of Naishkarma through sannyas, that is, detached intelligence applied to all circumstances, and also establishing self-control and giving up all association. Association means vigata spriha, contacts, living piled up with other people. With other people or with sense objects. Spriha means contact, touching, right? So touching means contact with material objects, material bodies. So everyone in all the varnas, can attain the supreme perfection of Naishkarmya by detached intelligence applied to all circumstances, self-control, and giving up the attachment. Association here means identification and attachment. Because contact, we cannot just be suspended in air. Okay. And 50. O son of Kunti, you should understand from me that once this perfection is obtained, one attains Brahman. In brief, certainly, this realization is the supreme knowledge. So, when even a Shudra attains this realization, he becomes not only a Brahman, becomes Brahman. He doesn't become a Brahmana in the Varna system because maybe he doesn't know how to teach, he doesn't have a lot of, inclination for study, for Sanskrit or whatever, but that is not required to attain moksha. Okay, so Brahman is moksha, transcendence. And this is a supreme knowledge. We don't need to learn a lot of, Veda mantras and stutis and rigs and whatever. 51. By engaging the self with determination and a completely purified intelligence, and by following the prescribed method, and also by letting go all the sense objects, beginning with the sounds, as well as attraction and repulsion. Then, by living alone in an isolated place, eating moderately, controlling the speech, the body and the mind, taking shelter in renunciation, constantly immersed in meditation, completely free from ahankara, pride for one's strength, lust, anger, and expectation of honors, free from mamatva, and peaceful. These persons' desires are on the level of Brahman. Nirmama ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam parigraham vimucha nirmama santo brahman bhuyaya kalpate. So these are, can be done by anyone, including the Shudras. So, here it says, engaging the self with determination and a completely purified intelligence. Yeah. By following the prescribed method. Yeah. Letting go all the sense objects, beginning with sounds. That doesn't mean to reject the sense object, but letting go, being, detached. Of course, even a liberated soul, as long as he has a body, he needs to eat, So even a Jivan Mukta needs to have the contact with the food, for example, or with the earth, because he's walking and he's sleeping and he has to have some physical contact, and sense objects. But it's not attached. Letting go means, okay, it's coming and going. It's not a big problem. When it comes, we'll use it in the service of God, and when it's not there, okay, that's also good. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
But here, why sound is stressed?
Sound is the first of the sense objects. And usually sound, because sound is the beginning of all creation. So maybe our mind is coming to us with some stupid ideas, But when we express those ideas through sound, then they start to materialize. The creation of the object starts. That is why it's important to avoid the prajalpa. Prajalpa means useless discussions. Now, that doesn't mean that we only have to talk about religion. We can talk about all the whatever is in the universe, even if about things that don't may not look like they're useful, but everything can be used properly if we have the proper consciousness. Like, for example, prajalpa, for example, is talking about a cricket match, because what can you learn from cricket? But it could be not Prajalpa, when you're talking about, for example, a novel or a movie, if you can learn something from that book or that movie, even if they're not religious books or scientific books, let's say the books of Harry Potter, okay? The stories of Harry Potter have had lots of success, and they contain some, useful things. They can teach us something. There is something we can use in the service to God, in the service to the universal community. Because some teaching is there, some meaning is there, or I don't know, some whatever, some things that are happening, some current affairs, maybe some politics, Okay, talking about politics at different degrees, could be Prajalpa, could be not Prajalpa. Because it is Prajalpa if you think that politics can solve your problems. And that they have they are important in themselves. But it could be useful if you know what's happening in the world, so that you can talk to people in a more effective manner. I don't know, is this clear?
Yes.
So beginning with the sounds is, both the sounds, the exiting sounds and the entering sounds can be very influential, both for us and for the universal community. If we are careful about what we say, and we are talking, we are speaking of beneficial things, useful things, to help other people, that's definitely, we shouldn't let go of this. We should engage. We should engage. But we shouldn't be attached. We need to learn to let go, because, like, for example, Krishna is in the end of the Gita is saying that one should not give this knowledge to people who are not, devotees, who are not interested to listen. So we need to be detached. If someone doesn't want to listen, we shouldn't we shouldn't insist. We shouldn't disturb his mind. If he's attached to something, we can give some hint, we can give some suggestion, good advice, but we should be detached, in the sense that if he doesn't want to listen, okay, well, okay, we've done our duty, So letting go of the sense objects, beginning with the sounds, as well as attraction and repulsion, ragadvesha. Something we may like and something we may not like, but if we have to do it, okay, we have to accept. Living alone in an isolated place, vivikta sevi. Vivikta, not mixing up a lot, Eating moderately, laghu ashi. Laghu ashi, okay. Eating light food, not becoming a big foodie. Controlling the speech, back. This is the same like before, beginning with sound. Taking shelter in renunciation is okay, yeah, we do our best and then let God do the rest. Constantly immersed in meditation. Anyone can do this, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, even someone who is in Avarna can do this, so it's not difficult. Then completely free from ahankara, which is the pride for one's strength, lust, anger, and expectation of honors. Free from mamatva means belonging, I and mine, And, when you are free from ahankara mamatva, you're peaceful. So, our desires are on the level of Brahman. We are already on the level of Brahman. Brahma Bhuta, this is my favorite verse of Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatva, na sochati na kankshati. Sabak sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One can become a real devotee, spiritual, transcendental devotee, after attaining, situating oneself on the level of Brahman, establishing oneself in the state of Brahman, and prasannatma, satisfied in the self. Na sochati na kankshati, doesn't worry, doesn't lament, doesn't hanker after anything. Okay, yeah, we'll do our job in the best possible way. Whatever is possible, we do what is possible. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, equally well disposed towards all beings. So there is no I and my, as opposed to them. This is very important. Okay, I think we can close on this one. 54. What do you think?
Yes.
Okay,
We
any
can discuss
question?
more on this. I'm saying next time when we start, we can discuss more on this Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma.
Yes, I totally agree. This verse is, I think, the most important verse today. In the present situation, it's the most needed. Okay, thank you so much. We'll have our next meeting. We continue the Bhagavad Gita from 54. Jai
Thank you.
Jagannath.